Hi, I'm Alex Gray, and I'm here with Grad Conn, Chief Marketing Officer of Microsoft USA. Pleasure to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, we're here at Impact 13, and we're talking a lot about marketing and what people are doing these days to improve their businesses through online marketing. I'd just like to know, what technologies should a company leverage to best reach their clients?
What technology should companies best? That's an interesting question. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit differently. I'm going to reframe that a little bit,
Please,
if you don't
go
mind.
right ahead.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this idea of reaching, and I'm going to say customers, not clients. Okay.
Absolutely.
So the idea of reaching customers, that I think is already framed incorrectly. It's the way most companies do think about it, but reaching customers is the wrong way to think about it. What you really want to do is you want to think about how do you engage people, and how do you engage them in ways that are story-based and they're conversational. And so there's kind of two models of communication that have sort of perpetually existed in communication. And one is this sort of what I'll call the Megaphone model, where I have a message and I'm going to tell you, okay? So I'm a very attractive man. I'll just keep saying that over and over again. And you're going to be thinking in your head, he's not that good looking. Okay, but that's my message, and I'll keep saying it over and over again. And that's a very, very common model of communication. And the other model of communication, the one that we need to do more of, is the stimulus response model. And so if we were really having a conversation, you and I are having just a natural conversation, I might do some things that would make you come to a conclusion about me without me telling you. And the best example I've got is the way a comedian works. A comedian has one very simple message. Every comedian has a single message that they want to communicate. You know what that is?
No, I don't.
I am funny.
Ah.
That's it. That's all the comedian wants. All they want you to think is that they're funny. They don't really. Some of them have a few axes to grind, but not that many. It's like, I'm funny. That's it. But if I stood on a stage, any stage in Vegas, and I just said over and over again, I am funny, I am funny, I am funny. I'm going to get my frequency. I'm going to get my my GRPs against I am funny, I am funny, I am funny. That's what most companies do, right? They stand there saying I am funny. What does a comedian do, right? A comedian does something very different. They send out a stimulus. And what's their stimulus? It's a joke. I'll tell you a joke. And then you laugh. And when you laugh at the joke, you think, wow, it's pretty funny. Which is the comedian's objective. And so as companies, we tend to be in this zone of thinking that we can force people to think the way we want them to think by just megaphoning them to death. But today, people can turn all that off. And so I think where marketers are at a little bit of kind of crossing the Rubicon moment of really having to say, how genuine can I really be? How do I create a real conversation? And how do I engage people and make them want to be part of the conversation I'm in? We heard from Tony this morning on the Zappos conversation. Tony's really created a community where people want to be part of that conversation, and where the stimulus that he sent out around how they feel about their customers, how they feel about shoes, made people say, I want to be part of that experience, I want to be part of that community, and that created a great business. They didn't just megaphone it out, and it would not have worked if they had done it that way.
Exactly, yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you. And I guess on the heels of that discussion, what are a few things a company can then do to jumpstart their message and their online marketing strategy?
Okay, so jumpstart is an interesting. So and I'm gonna
reframe it as
if you don't mind.
To.
Okay,
absolutely.
So
Go right
this concept of jumpstart is a really bad one, right? So
sure.
Marketers get a hold of the word jumpstart, and the next thing you know, they're running down the hallway, they're lighting their hair on fire, they're turning their clothes off. Like that's like the wrong way to do it.
Right.
Okay, so what you want to do is you want to try to be like a normal human being. Okay, just be genuine. And what I sort of coach people on is when you go home at the end of the day and you talk about your business, whether that's a corner grocery store or Microsoft's commercial business, which is what I run, I talk to my friends about what we're doing in a pretty genuine, honest way, because I don't want my friends to think I'm a dick. Right? Like I want my friends to think I'm a person.
Yes.
And so I'll talk about things like I'll say, I felt really great about this thing that we did. This other thing we did, I don't know, you kind of missed on. And that's how human beings interact. As soon as it goes into the company, suddenly everything's perfect, and yet company ends up sounding stilted. And so what we're doing in my group is we've actually been using social as a way of having engaging conversations that aren't filtered through the thousands of committee layers that tend to ruin advertising. And so we create what we'll call sort of micro advertising, where we'll respond to things that people say to us in a genuine way. Someone was making fun of us recently. If you go into Office, which is an extraordinarily advanced product, right? So Office 365 is a product that is both on your device, right? So it's local and it's in the cloud. Those two things sync, and all I can tell you is that syncing cloud to local is like a non-trivial, incredibly difficult thing to do. It's like one of the most advanced pieces of software in the world, okay? The save icon, right, to save a file, is a little picture of a floppy disk.
Yes. Where that
And my daughters, they've been on computers since they were 2. They've literally never seen a floppy disk. They don't even know what it is. I couldn't even describe to them what it is, okay? All right, so someone made fun of us online. Like they said, what's with the floppy disk in like Office 365? And so instead of sort of saying, ignoring it or whatever, we actually made an entire campaign around floppy disks and what you can do with old floppy disks. And we had ninja throwing stars, and we did this whole thing, and it was very engaging, and lots of people became part of it, and they had a lot of fun with us, because we were interacting with them like a real human being, and we were saying, yeah, that is kind of wacky. What is with what's with the floppy disk icon? And that I think is the future for marketing, which is to be real.
And I'm also a user of Office 365.
Good, congratulations.
Helped me grow my company, and Microsoft Dynamics CRM just got going with that as well.
Oh, really? That's
to grow
great.
Skylight Global, absolutely. So I can relate to everything that you're saying, even the floppy disk. And I'm very honored that you're able to come here and speak about these products, because a lot of people that I know are still exploring different ways to grow their business. And to me, Microsoft has always been the staple for growing your Office. It's the Office partner that helps you grow online now more than ever with those new cloud products that you've been bringing out. I'd like to also ask, just quickly.
Well, thank you for the ad. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm also marketing too. but I am very thankful though, because it really truly has helped, and that's an honest answer, and being real, as we were just talking about.
Well, and let me talk about that for a second, if you don't mind.
Please.
Because we have an unbelievable strength in Office, and that has come after decades of people investing tremendous amount of energy in the product, right? So that's not something that just happened by accident. The thing that I always tell people is that Office wasn't Office initially. Right? People sort of forget these stories, right? So if you remember, the first spreadsheet which I used was not Excel. Do you remember? It was Lotus 1, 2, 3.
Lotus
Remember
1,
Lotus
2,
1, 2, 3?
3.
Yeah, right. Wow, right?
Yeah.
What happened there?
Flashback,
that was
right?
the spreadsheet market.
Right.
Okay? And the number one word processor was not Word.
Remind me, please.
Word Perfect.
Word Perfect.
Oh my God, right? Word Perfect.
Everyone
Whoa!
on camera is going.
What happened there, right? Word Perfect. Okay, now PowerPoint actually has been sort of the number one for a long time. We actually bought PowerPoint. It wasn't something we made. And it was actually, PowerPoint was originally built for the Mac. It took us like a decade to get all the Apple code out and kind of put it in a PC code version, which is why PowerPoint sort of evolved the way it did over time. Anyway, so those were all separate products. And the big difference between Excel and Lotus, between Word and WordPerfect, is that when Windows 3.1 came out, it was a point-and-click interface, and those products were DOS-based products, and so they were text-based. Right? So if you can always tell a DOS user, like I've been using computers for a long time, and so I'll still use like DOS keyboard commands, because they all still work, because DOS is still in there. Okay, so you can still use all the DOS keyboard commands if you want, or you can use the mouse, and of course now you can use touch, which is really great. But what happened is Excel and Word were made for a point-and-click GUI interface world, and the Lotus and WordPerfect were not. And they're both kind of not really around anymore. And then the products were still separate products. And then one day somebody said, hey, we noticed that when people buy Word, they also seem to buy a copy of Excel quite frequently. And they seem to want to buy PowerPoint as well. Maybe we should put them all together. And so the original thing was just the three products, because OneNote hadn't come out yet. It was the three products shrink wrapped with a special price. And then someone said, hey, wait a second, but they were not like integrated. Then someone said, hey, that's like somebody's Office. Okay, and that name came into, and then they said, wait a second, this is actually one product suite. We should make them work together in similar ways. Now today, even though they're not identical, like the menus are not identical between them all, but they're pretty close, and they're meant to work together really well. And that's sort of this evolution that occurs in technology, which is really interesting. You know, and that took a long time. It took, let's see, I think, it took 12 years for Excel to unseat Lotus, and it took 10 years for Word to unseat WordPerfect. And you know, we're a kind of company that kind of gets in the game and stays in the game. And so the reason I wanted to talk about that is that we're in a new game today, which is Windows 8. And so and there's all sorts of different things that people have said about Windows 8. Some true, some potentially a little bit unfair. But we're kind of not super worried because we know it takes a long time to make big changes happen. And Windows 8 is a radical change. It's a change where people are going to go from a GUI interface to a touch interface. Mm-hmm. It's a change where you can create app containers where your apps, your links, and your resources can all be inside a single tile. It's a very different sort of head snap on that kind of thing. And it is something where the operating system will now fluidly go between any screen size, to a 80-inch pixel sense board all the way down to a 4-inch little phone. And that's something we need in today's world. It is the only OS that does that. So for me, you know, as I look at Windows 8 and its evolution, I sort of feel like, hey, you know what? We've had really big challenges before. The thing that I know we've done really well, just like we did GUI on Excel and Word, is we've gone touch on the desktop. And I'll just one really quick personal story. I was in a to be unnamed store of a competitive computer manufacturer. Okay. Just hanging out, okay?
Sure.
Actually, I tend to go in and do demos of our stuff when I'm in there. It's always pretty fun. People always want to see the surface, and so it's always hilarious. They can't kick me out because, you know, it's a store. Anyway, so I'm in there, and I was looking at a new machine they have out, which has been getting rave reviews. And I was playing with it, and I very naturally reached out and touched the screen. So I'm now in a zone where I'm mousing, I still use my DOS keyboard commands, and I'm using the keypad, and I'm touching. So you find you're in this kind of very interesting world with touch screens where you've got this kind of multi-point user interface. And we're heading towards a world where natural user interface will be the way we interact with computers, and the computer will disappear. So you'll be using your voice, your hands, your motions. Think about Connect.
Pen, stylus.
Pen, and you'll use the motion or the action that seems most natural for you at the time. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of cases, touch is a very natural way to initiate something. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so I'm kind of typing, kind of doing a little mousy thing. I touch the screen, nothing happens. And I got to tell you, it was fascinating little brain tease. I touched it again. I'm like, kind of, what's going on? I went, oh, wait a second, not a touch laptop. In fact, none of the machines in here are touch. And so in that moment I realized, and I've always obviously been supportive of our mission, but at that moment I realized we were on to something really special, but also really different and really hard. It's going to take a little while, but I'm really confident where we're going.
And Windows 8.1 is well on its way.
Yeah, we're calling it the new Windows, actually.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I know it's kind of the sort of technical word is 8.1, and that's kind of internally. It's been called 8.1 as the release to manufacturing version, yes. But it'll be the new Windows because 8.1 sounds very incremental, and this actually is a much bigger change than just we fixed a few things. Mm-hmm. The fascinating thing about Windows today is it's actually a product that evolves very quickly. So there have been hundreds of changes in Windows since we launched it already, and those just get pushed through Windows Update. So it's a product that's always evolving, always improving, always changing, and something like Windows Update, which is another unique thing to our company, is one of those things which always means that what you've got on your machine is the freshest version of that with all the latest patches and updates.
Very exciting times.
And the great thing, everyone who had Windows 8 will get 8.1. So that's fantastic. Or the new Windows.
That's fantastic. And you've shared so much more information than I thought. It was absolutely wonderful.
It's all public, so I don't get in trouble.
No, and it's great because it's news to me about the new Windows and these names. So it's really wonderful that you've been able to enlighten us on this. Our pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
That
was a great time.
That's been great. And I'm Alex Gray with IMA TV and Skylight Global Productions. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next interview.